All right. Well, then I'll just pause myself and take these, or mute myself and take these headsets off.
As Justin gets himself situated here, welcome everybody, Fusion FFB. I'm Josh here. I'm joined by at JustinFF_ and George here at BFTG Pod. And I don't know, we might get some other people jumping in here. We've got a full draft. I'm waiting for all the lights to go green. Justin, yours isn't here, but I know you're here. So we are getting ready to go. I'm going to actually be using this draft, and I'm going to be doing more of these as I prepare for a couple years ago, I started doing this series where I write about different strategies from different positions in the draft. And so tonight I'm doing the middle, apparently. So that's where we're going to start. So hopefully no one does anything too crazy and we stay fairly normal on the 80, not ADP, but just I want people to take what they want still, but hopefully we don't get too crazy. Hey, everybody.
You can just say me, Josh. It's okay. I don't get offended. I will not take three tight ends out the gate.
Yes, thank you. Your 5 wide receivers is acceptable.
Okay. Well, you know me. That's not happening.
Welcome everybody in the chat. All right, the so-called chat down here. And I'm going to hit the button and get us going. It's only a 60-second. So hope you're ready, George. You're number 1.
This was such a difficult position to be in. I have to really think long and hard on what I'm doing. And I went one-on-one with Christian McCaffrey, of course.
I don't know about that.
So I seen a very interesting stat earlier today on Twitter regarding Christian McCaffrey. He had 16 touchdowns last year. If you took away all of his touchdowns and gave him no touchdowns on the season last year, he still finishes as the number 1 running back in all of fantasy football in PPR leagues.
It's crazy.
Yeah. His touchdowns alone make him the number 43 overall running back. Based on just his touchdowns. No yards, no catches, just touchdowns. It's crazy.
And wasn't he the wide receiver last year? Wasn't he the wide receiver like 10 just on his receiving stats? It's crazy.
Hey, it would not surprise.
I'm on the clock real quick here, George. We'll return to that. Sorry. Cut you off there. So, wow, Clyde Edwards-Helaire went right before me. That's great. It's a little early for me. I got 30 seconds to pick here. I'm still basically going running back at this point. I'm not ready to take wide receiver yet, but it's pretty much Dalvin Cook or Derrick Henry for me. Dalvin Cook, I've stayed away from so far. I guess I'll go with Dalvin Cook this time around, but I don't think he's a sure thing to not miss time still, because just because he showed up to camp doesn't mean he may not still hold out. They put in those new rules and he was avoiding the 50,000, 49,000 a day fine for missing the camp practices. Yeah. But why can't he say when it's week 1, all right guys, call me when you got a contract ready for me to sign?
Yeah, they gave him 50,000 reasons a day to show up.
Yeah.
I'd show up as well. I think that'll be more common. We'll see a lot more players reporting, but they're probably going to end up doing exactly what you said, just holding out.
Oh, my toe.
Let me know when you want me to play.
Yeah, I don't even know how that would work. Obviously, they would lose. Here's the problem. They would also lose game checks, but they were going to do that either way if they held out.
Exactly.
So. All right, so we're going around the corner here. Lots of running backs going, of course. Michael Thomas and Devonta Adams are the only 2 non-running backs. Wow, I know it's crazy, but this is a really good one so far as running backs.
This is so as PPR, right?
Hey, I mean, it's PPR, yeah. But
all right.
Wide receivers just don't have it. When I'm in the middle like this, because like I said, I'm talking about how I go about thinking about my picks when I'm in the middle versus somewhere else. I'm trying to react a lot more. I'm just taking the values that are there. I can't really look at other people's teams and thinking who's going to fall to me, but I don't have to try and jump on any runs too badly because it's only about 10, 11, 12 picks until I pick again. So it's not too bad. Usually you don't get stuck. All right, it's only one quarterback I'm doing this, so we don't have to worry about the quarterbacks yet. I don't, at least. We did Julio and Tyreek off the board, so I'm looking. I could take Hopkins. Probably not. What do we have for running backs? Not much. You guys clearing them out. But let's see. There is one here I will take. I will go with Leonard Fournette. He's still inside this kind of, obviously there's many tiers broken up here, but he's still within this top like 14 that I think it falls off after.
You're trying to push that ADP up on him, aren't you?
Fournette.
Yes.
Well, I mean, I have him as my running back 15. That's not a stretch.
No.
How many win?
No, it's not a stretch. It's just his ADP is like most drafts I've done. I've seen 14. Him going in like the middle of the third, early fourth. Like the hate on him is real, and I don't get it.
14th running back in this draft.
Yeah.
At the 207. Like, that's fine. All right, let's see. Chris Godwin just went to the guy with Clyde Edwards, and Justin's up with the 209.
Oh, my bad. I thought my mic was unmuted. I was going to say, so I see 6 spots coming after me. If I assume that 3 or 4 of those are each running back and each wide receiver, then I think that there's a bigger drop between DeAndre Hopkins and the remaining few or the next few wide receivers than there is between, say, the Todd Gurley-ish and a few after him. So I'm going to take – but it didn't accept it. I hit it like 20 seconds ago.
Who do you want?
It's DeAndre Hopkins is who I was trying to take.
Okay. I have it set so it doesn't auto. Oh. You hit – hang on.
I autoed.
Hang on.
I called dibs on him in the 11th round. I don't know what's going on here.
I definitely don't want him there. It's DeAndre Hopkins was who I was trying to. I don't know why that didn't accept.
We'll blame it on Sleeper. It's all good.
Yeah, a little lag here. Okay, here we go. And we're back. And I'm pushing the button and it doesn't want to push. There we go.
And look at that. Patrick Mahomes went 2 picks later, Justin.
There's our first quarterback. He was really bummed for a minute there that Mahomes got taken.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah. That's all right. It all worked out.
I think I was listening to one of the radio shows earlier, and I'm not going to give away my draft strategy, but one of the podcasts I was listening to was talking about drafting from the 101 and doing certain strategies. And the first thing they said is go 3 running backs. So I think that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to go with Todd Gurley because I like him. I think he's going to get a huge workload in Atlanta. He's not the focal of the offense like he was in St. Louis. You surround him with Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, Hayden Hurst, Matt Ryan. He's upgraded skill position players all around him, so I love it. And the next guy I'm going to take, a lot of people say he's an injury risk, and he is. But I like the guy, and I'm going to go with James Conner.
He has that upside for sure.
He does.
And is your third? I mean, Gurley has his risk as well.
Of course.
But between the two of them, you figuring you should have a top 10 start as your RB2 almost.
Yeah. And I mean, you look at the people that are the running backs that were left, like Chris Carson, Le'Veon Bell, David Johnson, Melvin Gordon, Jonathan Taylor. Like, they all have question marks. There's no sure thing at that point.
Justin, what do you think once you unmute yourself? What do you think about Bell?
Well, I'm not thrilled about Bell, but all the big names are off the board. All of the lock RB2s in
now
my
all
mind.
the big
But I
names
love
are off the board.
Well, he's just a big name, though. At least Le'Veon's going to get all of the workload as well. So that was really a tiebreaker there. So, but I mean, I don't doubt the talent of Melvin Gordon. Obviously, at this point in his career, just with Lindsey there, and then Le'Veon doesn't really have much in the way of competition. So I kind of just went for opportunity as my little tiebreaker there for my RB2.
So, Justin, I thought you were talking about Gurley when you took DeAndre Hopkins. If you would have taken Gurley, I would have gone Connor Bell. So I like the pick there for you.
So here in the middle, on my last pod, I just talked about having some names in your pocket that you can take later. So the reason I was happy to take a running back in the second round was because so few wide receivers were going. Now, you might say, well, you should be zagging if everyone else is zagging. But really, if no one else is taking wide receivers either, that just means I can also get them later.
Correct.
And I have several in mind that I can usually grab 4 or 5, positional picks after the ones that are taken already. So I continue at this point to keep taking running back. I'm just going to play chicken with the rest of the league until they start going with something else. I was considering Kittle there, possibly going with the tight end, but I mean, there's not a premium, not like we're playing this league or anything, but if there was a premium, maybe I would have done that, but it's just a regular onesie position here. And yeah,
I was going to say with tight end feeling like it's deeper this year than in previous years, I'm not a big fan of taking one of these tight ends early.
Yeah, when I reach on the tight end early, I usually look back and think, man, I feel like I could have gotten some other guys later and been okay with it. And I would have rather had something else at that high pick, unless it's a true premium. But other than that, see, here we go. Now all the wide receivers are starting to go. There's 4 picks till me. We'll see if some of my names come back to me that I think are still wide receiver ones. But man, that's why I'm okay doing it, because yeah, I'm still gonna have a shot at one of my wide receiver ones. I took Jonathan Taylor as my 3rd running back there. I would have preferred Melvin Gordon, but I'm trying to throw a little upside in there. You could go either way with that one. But the reason I went at the 106, that's right around where some people start taking like Michael Thomas, right? But just think, if I had taken Michael Thomas there, I would have been reaching for my first running back with Leonard Fournette. And then my second, or in my 3rd round, I would have had to choose between reaching on a running back. I probably wouldn't have gone Taylor. I wouldn't have been able to reach for that upside. I probably would have had to take someone like David Johnson for a little bit more of a consistent production, at least early season. So now I opened myself up. Unfortunately, A.J. Brown got taken right before me. That is kind of who I was hoping would get back to me. I do have other wide receiver ones in mind that I would take. I'm in an interesting spot here because I don't really like any of the running backs anymore. I'm not really at where I want to be for wide receiver either. And I guess I'm just going to have to go with the wide receiver, but it's very interesting position to be in here.
I was kind of hoping
like
A.J. Brown would make it back to me as well.
Well, I'll just take the guy I think is good and is going to be there, and then we'll see how everyone else how it comes back to me in the 5th here. What are you thinking about, Justin?
Well, I'm absolutely with you on the go running back heavy early. I always do in redraft. I'm actually practicing tonight for my big family and friends redraft we do every year, and it's a it's a non-PPR 1 quarterback. It's an old school league, but even with that, I'm trying to draft this one as a PPR more so. I'm very well known to go 3 or 4 running backs in a row to start a draft. I took Hopkins in this one just because of the PPR aspect, but I'm definitely going running back here, and I love Monty as my RB3. I think that David Montgomery is going to be a consistent RB2 throughout most of the season. So to get him as my RB3, I can see myself starting him over Le'Veon.
Yeah, and his workload is guaranteed, which I do like about David Montgomery. Like, I don't think he's as good of running back as people thought he was, but I'll take a guaranteed workload on a running back in the 4th round every day.
Yeah, just exactly like Le'Veon. It's all about the opportunity.
Yep. So I think I'm gonna go wide receiver now. I got my 3 running backs, 3 guys I do feel really good about. Yes, there's questions between Gurley and Connor, but there's also a lot of upside between the two. And looking at the wide receivers that are available, if I punt it these 2 picks, then I'm going to be hurting coming back in the 7th and 8th round, or the 6th and the 7th round. So I'm going to take DJ Chark and Terry McLaurin. As soon as it loads, there it goes.
Well, Coach Shep's going to be upset that I wasn't able to pull in McLaurin for the Toilets to Titles team tonight. He wanted me to try to snag Terry McLaurin. So I'll tell you, it's saying a lot coming from a Cowboys fan. So that's it's obviously a good pick there, especially this late to get your wide receiver too.
I definitely 100% blame Josh and Football Brian, because the 2 guys I was hoping to have come back to me were A.J. Brown and Keenan Allen, and I would have been over the moon, and they went bing bam. So
I can see Keenan.
Right on.
I almost reached on Keenan compared to a lot of people where they take him. He easily could have fell to you if it wasn't for me.
So
I believe
I do know for a fact that the guy that's drafting 5th right after me in this round in my family redraft is going to be watching this. So at this point, I would probably go ahead and take a wide receiver. I do like, obviously, I like Russell Wilson, Dak Prescott right here, or next on the quarterback list, and it's probably getting close for me for those guys. But I think that's still a bit of a reach. I'm going to go wide receiver. Instead of taking the wide receiver I would normally take here, I'm going to take the one that I know Joshua is targeting. but he's right there with the guy that I would usually take. Lockett's not out of my range at this point, but it's mainly because of how much Joshua likes him. He's really talked him up, and I agree a lot with what he has to say about him.
Yeah, I get that
So,
Keenan Allen,
really
Tyler Lockett stack so often in this range. What are you saying?
Josh, I want to pick your very quick. DK Metcalf went 4.8. Tyler Lockett went 5.4. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I just talked about this in my last podcast. I see him going both ways. It's team by team, because to me it seems like I really like Metcalf as my 2nd or 3rd receiver, but I want Lockett as my 1st or 2nd kind of thing, right? If that makes sense. If I'm really relying on him, especially if I'm waiting to pick and he's my 1st wide receiver, I would definitely prefer Lockett. I think he's more in that like 10 to 20 points per game range, while Metcalf is like 5 to 30. It
So
could be bad.
You want the guy to
be
really good.
Yeah, and I think it's not just a consistency, if that's even a thing, play. It's really just about knowing who I know that will be locked in. So I'm going to keep going with. I don't really like any of the, and I'm the commissioner, whatever here, so I can cheat. I'm timed out, but I'm going to go ahead and grab my tight end here. It's almost a reach, but I don't like anything else.
That tight end that you picked kind of surprises me.
He's my tight end 3.
I figured you would go Andrews. I thought you had Andrews as your tight end 3.
Not in redraft, not this year, not with especially the way that the Eagles receiving core is already falling apart.
Yeah.
I think he could easily lead that team in targets again. I love Jalen Reagor. I do. But Zach Ertz is going to get more work. As much as I like Andrews, it's hard to see the touchdowns repeating. And even if his usage increases to compensate, it's still not enough to match what Ertz did, last year, just being Ertz.
And I honestly think with how depleted that wide receiver core is, Ertz has a good shot at going for the receptions record again for tight end. Like this year, everything is aligning for him to make another run at that record.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a lot of wide receivers there, but none that I really liked. So, like I said, in the middle here, I want to take the value that's fallen. So if Lockett had fallen to me, that would be the value. But I was looking at guys like T.Y. Hilton, Marquise Brown. I mean, none of them really seemed like they didn't belong here anymore. That's right where they should be, which means I'm not gonna even take them where they're supposed to be, let alone reach. And I know this is a 1 QB, but it seems like whenever you get to a point in the draft where it's like you don't like anything, I usually just take one of the onesies, either tight end or the quarterback. So we'll see how that turns out for me if I have any good wide receivers again. I want to look here when we come back around, guys. What do you think about these other teams? There's not all three of us are in the first half of the draft here. There's some real powerhouses going here at the end. We got Shane Hallam at the 12 is putting up a monster, I think, until he made the mistake of picking Ronald Jones. But
I was waiting to ask you about that pick.
But he got Joe Mixon, Chubb, DJ Moore, Allen Robinson. I mean, that's 4 players that are in the top 12 of their position. I mean, that's solid. So I'm just going to scroll up and just look at his first 4 and say he did a good job. I'm looking at some of these other guys. We got Russell Wilson, 3rd quarterback overall, going in the end of the 5th. And any other thoughts on these other teams?
I do like Mike's team, Mike Jacks, with Russell Wilson at that point, just mainly because I see a huge positive regression for Odell Beckham this season, and then T.Y. Hilton with with Phillip Rivers in the backfield. He's going to want to chuck the ball like he always does, which is helpful to the wide receivers. And then he started off with 3 solid backs, so I really like that team.
Yeah, it's a solid team. I like what Akunda Matata had put together. He also started out with 3 straight running backs: Derrick Henry, Aaron Jones, Chris Carson. That's real solid. Amari Cooper can be up and down, but I still like him this year. I still think he'll end up finishing the number 1 wide receiver in Dallas. Devontae Parker and Marquise Brown. Marquise Brown is. I think he's going to have a fantastic year this year. He just may break out, and would it surprise anybody if he put up 1,200 yards and about 8 or 9 touchdowns? I don't think it would.
Well, I'm on the clock here, 30 seconds. I'm not going to go with another onesie. I'm not going to go with a quarterback here. None of the running backs are. A bunch of those rookies already went. I would have considered Swift or Akers, but they're gone. Dobbins just a couple before me. So all the rookies are gone. I'm full up anyway with Taylor. I think I'm going to grab someone a little bit outside of maybe where they're popular here, but as my wide receiver, I guess 2, I'll take it. We're going to go with Michael Gallup.
This is kind of crazy to me, but
really, you were really quiet right there.
No, not that. I was leading into my decision here. It seems like Sleeper has Rob Gronkowski listed as their tight end 6 in their ADP. That is insane to me. That makes 0 sense.
Yeah, I don't know where they get theirs, but if it's just in house or what. Darren Waller went right ahead of you if you were thinking tight end.
I mean, I was kind of considering it, but not deeply. And the last 2 quarterbacks taken were the last 2 that I would take in this round as well. So I'm back to taking looking at running back or wide receiver as well. And in a PPR, I really think that the safest bet still left here is Julian Edelman. So I'm going to go with Julian as my wide receiver 3. I like that.
Yeah, I like him too. It was between Edelman or Gallup for me right there.
Do you guys know if Cam Newton has a history of targeting his slot receivers?
I don't know if there's any pattern there. I mean, when you have Steve Smith, you have a pattern of targeting Steve Smith. So I'm not really sure what that means.
No, I'm just curious because I can't ever recall him having a decent slot receiver, but I do know that he always targeted, like you mentioned, Steve Smith. He made Devin Funchess relevant for a little bit. Just
Benjamin.
the bigger body wide receivers. And that's why my train of thought this year has been more N'Keal Harry will be the wide receiver you want in New England, not necessarily Julian Edelman.
I can't disagree with that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say I do think that Henry has huge potential to step his game up this season with Cam back there, but unfortunately it's potential to step his game up where we already know that Edelman has the game. So that's why, in my mind, Edelman is the safer bet.
Yeah, I think Edelman is still going to be the guy. I do think that the change to Cam could definitely benefit Harry more so than if they had stayed with Stidham. But Stidham may have been better for Harry as well. I mean, really anything over Brady might have been. I don't know. We'll see if he can make that step up. Justin's on the clock if he's got any thoughts. Otherwise, we'll let him think. But we got a.
I kind of do. I like a couple more running backs, and like I said, redraft I go running back heavy, but I have a couple wide receivers that I really don't think will slip. But I think I'm gonna take one more running back here just because I have a good strong feeling that they're gonna try to utilize him a lot this season while he's still under contract, and let that rookie come along. So it just depends on how the season works out for the Colts. If they're extremely competitive and they have a real shot at it, then I do think they're going to go more heavier towards Jonathan Taylor because he is the better back. But who knows? Maybe they'll try to tank towards the end of the season and just run Max Wills off.
Yeah, I'm not a coach speak believer much, but it seems to me like sometimes when the coaches say things, you can read behind the lines a little bit. And when they started talking about how they were going to go with a hot hand this week, it seems to me like they're just giving themselves like that out that they can go with Taylor if he has a couple, big runs. They're just giving themselves that excuse. So yeah, They're just setting it up already.
Absolutely, I agree. But
I'll get back to it in 1 second. I'm going to go with a receiver again. I just talked about at this point in the draft. I don't understand it. I don't like him because of consistency for my wide receiver 2, but as my 3, I'll take Jarvis Landry. I think he outscores Odell Beckham this year again. What were you saying about Colts, Justin?
No, I agree with that. But I will say that Landry was one of the couple of wide receivers I didn't think would come back to me. And had I known that you wanted him bad enough, then I probably would have taken him.
So is that our strategy? Let's just take Josh's guys, because had I known that, I could have been doing that for a while now.
Yeah, I want to snipe him. Well, no, it's because I wasn't in love with Mac at that point, and I was more in love with Landry, but I just stayed true to my form and took another running back. But I also want to have a lot of fun.
I mean, at that point, I almost would have taken one of those. They went right after Howard and Breida. I mean, at least one of them has the chance to hold on to that job for the whole season.
If I'm a betting man, I'm gonna bet on Jordan Howard.
I think that's the safer bet, but it's also has, I think, less reward.
It does.
All right, we've got our first. Is that our first rookie receiver off the board? I think it is. Jalen Rager went 8-3. A couple other receivers. I like Tyler Boyd. He just went. Marvin Jones on the turn. Shane's putting pretty good team together there. Brian is on the clock, and as it was pointed out, his running backs are Raheem Mostert and Jordan Howard. That's it. The rest of his team looks good.
If you're gonna punt the position, that's not a bad 1-2 to start off with this late in the draft.
Yeah, it's really not.
Yeah, if you're going 0 wide receiver, then that's not bad. That's not bad at all. We'll see if he goes again here with a running back to try and shore it up a little bit more. I'm going to be left with a tough decision. I was almost to the point of considering Deshaun Watson. I have him in the top 3 quarterbacks. So it would be to the point where he would almost be worth it, even in a 1 quarterback for me here in the 8th. But he went end of the 7th. So we are just waiting on it. And he goes Phillip Lindsay. So there's another that makes sense. He needs those running backs with opportunities. So it's, to me, I've got my 3 running backs, 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end. Not, like I said, not going quarterback, not without Watson being there. There's no one else for a while that's going to be worth it. So I have the choice of stacking up receivers or hitting on some of these running backs that I think are maybe going overlooked a little bit. And that's exactly what I'm going to do, I think.
There goes Shady McCoy.
Actually, I was just looking at it. No, going to go with another guy I just talked about on the podcast. Deebo Samuel.
Nice
as
pick.
my wide receiver 4, I can wait. I can wait for him. I'll wait till October if I have to. And hey, it could go bad. It could go really bad, but it could also be really good. I could have a wide receiver 2.
Exactly. No, that's a good pick. That's somebody I had in my queue. So I can't talk down the Deebo pick. That was an excellent pick on your behalf.
And this is how, look, maybe you don't like my particular ones, but this is how you can take early running back. Particularly, I'm finding I can get away with this at the middle, towards the end of the draft, where, look, I got Keenan Allen. Or I could have had, if you don't like that, I could have had Kupp or Metcalf or something like that. I went Zach Ertz, but I could have grabbed, I was going the other way. I could have had like a Parker or a Hilton or Marquise Brown. I got Gallup instead. Could have had an Edelman. Then I got Landry, but I could have had a Tyler Boyd. So even if you don't like the particular ones I've taken here, just look around and see. Those are the kind of wide receivers you can still get in this range. And I think it makes going running back early worth it.
Yeah, there's definitely 1 or 2 guys I would rather have that were picked around me. But I know, as I'm watching the players go, about the tier range that I'm going to be getting on the turn here. And I agree. Like, yeah, you could have got Marquise Brown if he would have fallen another pick or 2, but he didn't. You got Michael Gallup. Could have took Julian Edelman. You could have took Stephon Diggs. You could have had AJ Green.
Well,
but
I could have had Brown. No, sorry, you're right. No,
you
couldn't have had Brown. I could have had Edelman. That's right. We got a timeout. I got to figure out if we're going to give him something and hope he gets back in here. Let's
give him Tim Tebow.
Been a little bit. I don't really want to give him the CPU pick. Does anyone know on Sleeper, does it just take the top on the all rankings, or does it actually look at his lineup?
I think it works the lineup, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, because I don't really want to give him Rob Gronkowski. I don't think that's really very nice when he already took Waller. But
no, because he's got Darren Waller. Maybe give him a quarterback.
Well, I'll try the auto pick and see if it gives him a tight end or not.
Okay.
It didn't. It's a little smarter. Okay, give him. That's fair.
Good. That's fair. Yeah, no, that's a fair pick there.
I mean, I don't like it, but it's fair.
So at this point, the 7, 8, 9 area, I've in the past I've been taking in the last month, I've been taking a lot of Sony Michel in this area. But hearing the recent news of the surgery going bad, I'm not sure that he's going to be ready for week 1. And now I'm trying to figure out where the safe play is to take him. But
it's not just the surgery. They went out and signed Lamar Miller.
I know. That's what worries me. But I'm going to go with Evan Ingram. I like the upside if he can stay healthy, and so I'll get my tight end now, so I can wait until the end of the draft to worry about my backup later.
No, I think that's a great tight end. I mean, I would have had him going at least before Hurst, if not. I mean, he's pretty even with Waller for me. I would take Waller over him, but he has a really high upside. Ingram, especially this late.
You got to start at the position this late. I mean, that's a good pick, Justin. You know, this draft kind of reminds me a lot of that Frankenstein draft, where when depending on which way we were going, it was Justin, Josh, then me. Like, I dreaded that little run every single time.
That was pretty funny how it's the three of us back to back.
And we listen to each other's materials, so we all kind of know each other as well. But it's a little bit different though. Like in that situation, like I'm still, since it's an actual league, I'm still a little bit more worried about my own stats or my own rankings more so than yours. You know, like I don't want to go out of my way to snipe you as much. You know.
You can do that in the mock.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Tevin Coleman went. I would have taken him a long time ago. I don't think Mostert has that starting position locked up quite as much as some people think.
Coleman was the running back that I was debating there with Ingram, and I didn't mention it because I was hoping he would come back.
With your other running backs, I probably would have gone him, just because of you might lose Marlon Mack volume and then Bell. Hey, I'm just saying you took Kamara first, and you have some other good guys, so it's just a matter of playing the odds, and you could create a solid pool of players to pick from. Because sometimes
I don't know what's going on with the laptop says that timed out, but I clearly I'm on an internal circle spin here on Zach Moss.
Zach Moss, you got it. Don't click anything extra. And next pick?
I haven't quite decided the next one, to be honest.
Okay.
I did know who I wanted the next pick, but I guess Justin thought he looked better on his team than mine.
Oh, boy. Accidental snipes.
So
you don't have any tight end or quarterback yet. So, that makes sense. You look there. But like we were just talking about, after Ingram, it's like I wouldn't have taken Hurst, obviously. And then I'm not looking at tight ends again until you get into double-digit rounds again. It's at that point, once it gets past Ingram for me, I'm like, I'll just wait and grab a couple of my guys at the end. Now, obviously, we're only going 11 rounds here, but there's still lots of tight ends I'm happy with later. Crowder. All right. So, hey, look, George, just like I was trying to, make Justin feel better about his running backs, but in the same way, you have like this really deep pool of wide receivers to pick from. So you can essentially be streaming straight out of your roster. Just pick whoever the best ones are that week.
Well, that and as we had start 3, and then we got 3 flex positions. So I'll be definitely, starting a bunch of wide receivers. That's why I'm as heavy at that position as I am. But being a PPR, I love Jamison Crowder in a PPR league. He's super, super safe. He's good, somebody you could throw out there, and he's not going to cost you the week.
All right, Justin's on the clock here. We'll see if he probably picking between a wide receiver and running back, I'm guessing.
That would be correct. I see a lot of running backs that are pretty much the same guy to me. Just a different jersey.
Really looks good to me. There's one really, really good running back that sticks out to me.
We're about to find out who he is because you're going to tell us, I'm sure. But in the meantime,
particularly if I was you,
I've been on Emmanuel Sanders a lot just because being the number 2 in that offense with Breeze potentially retiring at the end of the season. I like where that's going. I think that would make for a beautiful story, and I want that story to be a part of my team.
I feel like I just would have taken Latavius Murray if I was you at that point.
I was considering it. That was one of the guys.
I might just take him.
Is that who you were considering? Is that who you said was
one
the
of my
more?
possibilities? Like you said, I would sometimes consider Sony here, but not really. There's a couple names I am thinking about here for running backs. Obviously, I'm not on the clock. I'm not sure if this guy's going to be back or not. So we might be auto the rest of the way for him. He made it.
I wouldn't come back after.
He made it through 7 rounds. So he's taken his first quarterback. I'm on the clock. There's a few more wide receivers I could go with, but I like the ones I have, and I feel like I need a little bit more as far as running back, particularly somebody that is going to get me some early season volume just in case Taylor doesn't do it, and that's going to be Adrian Peterson.
It's not a bad pick. I fully expect him to
Taylor.
I fully expect AP to carry the rock there with guys being cut. And let me tell you, like I was physically hurt when I read the news about Darius Guice and what happened and him getting arrested for domestic violence and whatnot. Like that's one guy in the NFL I would never have picked to see get arrested for domestic violence. Like if you follow his Twitter feed at all, like he's always out and about, interacting with fans. He's literally posting, "Hey, I'm going to be going to play bowling here. Hey, I'm playing the PS4. Who wants to come play with me?" Like super interactive with his followers and his fans, and it's just lets off like he's the nicest guy in the world. So for him to get arrested for domestic violence, like it just shows you sometimes you don't really know who people are, even if they have a public persona. Like it's just, I don't know, it hurt.
And people are saying that, well, he did slip because of maturity concerns. Well, look, you can be, just because you're immature doesn't mean I think you're going to be abusive. Like that doesn't equate. I know lots of mature people who I don't know, but I know plenty of people that people thought of as being mature that turned it out to do bad things. So just because you're immature and you're playing Xbox or whatever, that has nothing to do with it. So the people who were connecting that, I didn't really buy that.
No, I wasn't buying into that either. It had nothing to do with immaturity. It was stupid. It was boneheaded.
We don't know the details. Maybe some immaturity played into it. I'm sure getting yourself in a stupid position, or we don't know the details. But just overall, just because the guy's a goofball and seems to still be a bit of a kid, that one thing doesn't lead to the other. You had something, Justin?
Oh, no. I was making a joke. You said something about just because you're an immature goofball doesn't mean that you're abusive. So I was volunteering myself as an example.
I'm not sure which one you're volunteering for.
Yeah, I thought he was volunteering me.
Oh, he's pointing up.
Yeah, I was pointing up.
All right, on the end here, we have Jared Cook. Finally, we broke some more tight ends. Tavius Murray, Darrell Henderson, Chase Edmonds, Hunter Henry, a couple more quarterbacks. Oh, man, a couple of my later wide receivers are getting snapped up here. Shoot. Well, might have to adjust a little bit here. Christian Kirk was the other guy I was considering. He went right after me after I took AP Man. Oh, okay, yeah, I know where I'm going to go here. All right, he made it. I'm going to go back to a wide receiver.
Don't do
Get
it.
a little bit more. Yeah, this is kind of Landry Debo insurance here. Someone I think can give me some steady points. He's still wide receiver 1 in New York.
I agree. Last year, the games he played, he being Golden Tate, only 2 games did he not score in double-digit points in PPR
really
leagues.
Good. It still had his yards after catch too.
Yep. Yeah, I mean he either scored touchdowns for you or it was like 6 for 57 yards or something like that. So he was definitely somebody you could throw in your lineup and he would not kill you. And then he had a couple of boom weeks too where he went over 100 yards, and one of the weeks he had over 102 touchdowns. So that's a great pick right there.
I will continue drafting Golden Tate every year until he loses that yards after catch. And to me, that'll be the sign that he's lost a little something. And so when that happens, that's when I'll start being scared of him, I guess. But until then, I mean, I don't care. He gets it done.
It's a good pick.
Oh yeah, we got this guy. Here we go. Out of that one.
Now he gets.
Oh, he got. He finally filled it up. That's okay. It's a good flex.
All right. Well, I'm up, and I still need my quarterback, and I see that George on the end is going to. I mean, if he has to fill a roster, then he'll be taking his tight end and quarterback on the turn. So I may as well, knowing there's a good chance he'll take a quarterback, take my quarterback now. And of what's left, I really kind of want to go Cam Newton just because I like stacks, and my other two best wide receiver stacks are gone. 3 really, if you count Breeze with Emmanuel Sanders. But I still believe in Matt Ryan with another big season this year. He's in a division where he's guaranteed to have 6 games against really porous pass defenses. So I'm gonna take Matt Ryan.
Matt Ryan was my highest graded quarterback left on the board. So that was a good pick. He probably would not have come back to you.
Yeah, and then if that were the case, then I'd have the same debate between Cam Newton and possibly Josh Allen with the rushing, and Aaron Rodgers, angry Aaron Rodgers this year.
All right, so I'm on the clock now.
Doesn't look like you started that quarterback run like you hoped, Justin.
I am actually not going to fill my roster here. I'm not going to take a quarterback with the next 2 picks.
Nice.
Well, George.
I'm going to go with Preston Williams. Listen, in a real draft, we would have more than 11 rounds, and I would actually, in a 1 quarterback league, there's still about 8 or 9 quarterbacks I like. So I'm not going to take a quarterback now because there's still too many in a single quarterback league left on the board.
Mm-hmm.
Fine, then I'm not taking a kicker.
You mean you will take a kicker?
So my tight end, there's a couple of I am going to take a tight end here. There's a couple that I kind of like. Fantasy football is supposed to be, you pick guys you want on your team because you want to watch them play. Everybody knows I'm a Miami guy, so I think it's a slight reach on Gesicki, but I'll be more than happy to take him there.
Yeah, I mean, you know who you should have taken. Come on.
I know who I should have taken. But for the sake of this draft, I wanted somebody on my team that I wanted to watch play week in, week out.
You don't like watching the Browns?
No. Although I said for years, like, I am a closet Browns fan. Like, I do kind of root for them to be good, but I'm not a Browns fan.
I think most of the NFL is closet Browns fans because at this point, it's kind of like how everyone was Cubs fans for a while.
Yes.
Until they finally won it, and then everyone's like, screw you.
Yeah, all of a sudden, nobody likes the Cubs.
Yeah, now it's like, no, we're done with you now.
I'm gonna take Lamar Miller here just to try to boost up his ADP a little bit more and see what that does to dilute the waters.
I didn't even look at running backs at this round. Is Sonny Michel still there?
Yes.
Wow. That ADP is just crashing on him.
What is news? Is there new news that I didn't know about?
Sony. I thought Sony went somewhere because he was at the top of the list.
He's at the top of the list still.
I changed the search bar on here. Yeah, he's still there.
Wow.
Yeah, but didn't Lamar Miller also go on the active pup list today?
Uh-oh.
This morning?
Uh-oh. Duke Johnson. It's too late. Duke Johnson.
Well, I mean, what's the...
Hey, Josh, you were correct. Patriots edition Lamar Miller to start training camp on pup list.
Yeah.
Maybe he was just out of shape.
So Sonny Michel goes to the auto draft. Well, I'm going to make it a trifecta then. And we'll go with, no. It jumped on me. What in the world just happened? I clicked it, and as I clicked it, the whole thing changed.
So you know what I get from Lamar Miller, Sonny Michel, Damian Harris going 1, 2, 3? Stay away from New England running backs. That's what that screams to me right there.
I wouldn't take him in the 11th. I would not take him in the 11th.
No, but whichever one does come out of it
honestly,
as a starter is going to be a viable option, at least to start the season.
I would have taken Matthew Stafford, to be honest.
There's only one viable option in New England. His name is once again James White.
Or Cam
True.
Newton.
Yeah, maybe, but yeah, very true. So James White's going to be the consistent all season guy, but I think for redraft, I think there's still something to be said about drafting Sonny Michel at some point. Once he comes back from his injury, I do believe he's still going to be the main workload guy. But yeah, you're absolutely right, especially in PPR. James White would probably be the one.
I got him in like the 8th or 9th a couple of weeks ago, or just last week, I guess. And I felt okay with it. He was like my 4th or 5th running back, so I was kind of just stacking it up for exactly what you said. What if he is healthy in October and he starts getting a workload? We got Anthony Miller, Curtis Samuel, Pollard, Jefferson, Watkins, and the last pick, Shane. What do you got for us? I do like his team. He got Hunter Henry. Oh, I like that last pick with Brian Edwards. I like it. So I'm going to look at
I like
this
Shane's
here.
7 and 8. I'm sorry, I thought we were talking about Shane's team.
No, go ahead.
I like his
we can.
His 7 and 8 round pick there with Darius Slayton, Darius Slayton and Marvin Jones are both guys that I think are going to be solid picks in those rounds.
Yeah, I think
he's got a great all-around team, actually.
Obviously, I like Tate over Slayton, but Marvin Jones is pretty good, and there would have been other options instead of Slayton, but I think Slayton's still going to do okay. It's not terrible. I can't get on board with that Ronald Jones that early. I don't hate him later, but it almost seemed early, end of the 5th. Before even DeAndre Swift, Dobbins, James White. I would take all those guys ahead of Ronald Jones. Definitely, I mean, that would have been a nice spot to double up either Dobbins or Swift. Double up just 2 of those rookies right there, because you got Mixon and Chubb to start a running back in case the rookies take some time, but you've got that high explosive upside, especially towards the second half of the season. That would be an interesting.
I don't think anybody's expecting Swift and Dobbins and really even Akers after hearing McVay say that he wants to use all 4 running backs.
Yeah,
that concerns me.
It doesn't concern me one bit.
I still think that Malcolm Brown is going to get quite a workload there. I still do. I mean, he's the only vet that has seen any real time back there. And I don't know. It's not that I'm excited about the guy, but I'm not excited to have any of them. Akers is the big play guy. Akers is going to mainly be the guy, but I can see Brown getting a big chunk of the workload.
I think he can get what he got last year, but they had some of the most running back routes run in the league last year there in LA with the Rams, but they did not have a lot of actual passes to the running back probably because Gurley just wasn't cutting it. I think Akers can do that. So I think he's going to be the guy. It's not going to take long. I don't buy it. All that talk from McVay, I don't buy it. I've heard it before from them. It's nothing but talk. As soon as he started talking about how we've even got a fourth starter level guy in Joe Kelly, I knew that it was BS.
Yeah, but I think it's kind of consensus at least that we can kind of throw out the idea of Henderson being a guy. So because of that, it's probably going to be Henderson.
Yeah, go ahead, Josh. Go ahead.
Why are you picking a guy in the middle of the second round when you just took one in the third the year before, and you had taken a running back the year before that too? I mean, if because the Patriots, right? So the Patriots, they go out and sign Lamar Miller. That means Damian Harris, who the Patriots took a year ago in the third, that means Damian Harris is out. It's going to be Lamar Miller instead.
No, it could be Lamar Miller and it could be Damian Harris and it could be Sony Michel's injury is a lot worse than what the Patriots are actually leading us to believe.
But I'm just saying, just because like the new guy comes in, everyone assumed that must now mean because the Patriots went out and got a new guy, that must mean now that the guy they had before they don't like in Damian Harris, right?
No,
what does that mean for the Rams?
No, it doesn't mean that for the Patriots. It means they have a guy who's injured, and they want another body to replace the guy that's injured.
I agree. Like it's a depth chart move, not ahead of him. I'm just talking about perception here from people. I'm talking about people's perception that somehow he's going to be over him. But then over in LA, we're not going to use the same reasoning. We're not going to look at that at all, that they actually spent a draft pick, which costs far more than going out and signing a free agent who nobody's wanted for months, right? But that doesn't mean they don't like the other guys. You know, I'm not saying you can draw conclusions from that either way. I'm just saying if that's what you are using in any of these situations, you need to be consistent. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, I think we all agree, talent-wise, Cam Akers is the best running back in Los Angeles on the Rams. Like I think we can all agree there. But coming in with a COVID-ridden season where there's no mini camps, there's no rookie camps, there's no preseasons, like I think a lot of the rookies are going to be behind the eight ball to start, and that could be why we like some of these other guys.
Yeah, possibly. Again, if they can be your third and fourth running back there, then it's fine by me to wait on him if I've got Chubb and Mixon to hold me over. Any of these other teams that really pop out to you guys? How did our zero running back go? Did he pull it off? He had Mostert, Jordan Howard, Phillip Lindsay, Boston Scott.
That's not bad. That's really, I mean, for a zero running back team, that's really not. I've seen much worse.
I'd have to ask Brian later. Maybe he'll chime in. I don't know if he's around anymore, but I wonder if he was a little ticked off at me for taking AP right in front of him.
He probably was. I guarantee you he was looking at AP there, just taking shots in the dark at running back that late. When you go zero RB, you have to.
Any volume, right?
Like I think I would like his team. And listen, I like AJ Brown a lot, and I understand, drafting him at 4-6. That's about right. But I think I would like his team better, and he might like his team better if he would have even just went with like a David Montgomery or a Mark Ingram over AJ Brown, and then come back in the 5th and took if you want another wide receiver, take like a Devontae Parker, a T.Y. Hilton, somebody of that ilk.
Maybe Courtland Sutton falls there since he let AJ slide.
Yeah.
Well, just like we were talking about with the tight ends before, he took Kittle in the 3rd. I mean, you could have taken, it's not Chris Carson, David Johnson, not really pretty there, but it would have been nice and easily could have grabbed a tight end later. But
he could have took Mark Andrews instead of Raheem Mostert. I mean, I think we would all agree that would have been better had he took Andrews in the 5th and then took a running back in the 3rd, a Chris Carson, a David Johnson, the guys you had previously mentioned.
So we all agree he just should not have taken AJ Brown ahead of me in the 4th. Really, that's the important thing here.
I think what we were saying is I should have called dibs on AJ Brown, so this way you guys wouldn't have been able to take him because we got to respect the dibs.
Man. No, that's a good spot for him.
So well for the Patrick Mahomes dibs that you called.
So AJ Brown, right? He goes behind Calvin Ridley, behind Juju and Odell, behind Mike Evans, Adam Thielen. Yeah. I understand most of those, but his upside is so good. It's hard to believe, especially without Corey Davis almost certainly going to be at least limited very beginning of the season here. It just secures his volume, and that's the only thing that maybe was questionable. I think you pulled it off pretty well, Brian. Good job. I like Hakuna Matata. I'm looking at that team. They went with 3 running backs that are pretty solid, and then didn't look at running back again. And a lot of high. I mean, we got a pretty deep lineup, like you said, George. We got 3 wide receivers, 3 flexes. He's got a lot of really high upside receivers. So some of these guys are going to be giving him duds, but some of them are going to be giving him like week-winning performances. He's got Mark Cooper, Devontae Parker, Marquise Brown, Henry Ruggs, Alan Lazard, Curtis Samuel.
Yeah, I mean, on any given week, those guys can literally win you the week.
It's a fun construction.
It is. Personally, I'm biased. I like the way I constructed my team. I think I had the best team here, but I'm biased. So,
I mean, if it hadn't been for that Mike Gesicki pick, I might have agreed with you.
Yeah, Joshua doesn't like athletic tight ends. That's what I got from his last episode.
Yeah, he doesn't like guys who have just amazing metrics. He doesn't care.
Yet, for some reason, can't break a tackle to save their life.
Well, that's okay because he always catches it in the end zone.
I'm blaming all of that on Adam Gase.
Yeah, you don't need to break a tackle when you catch it in the end zone.
He wasn't there. He had Ryan Fitzpatrick throwing the ball to him.
Still Adam Gase's fault. Who do you think coached him up his rookie year?
Definitely not Gase because he hasn't coached anybody up.
Exactly. That's why it's Gase's fault.
When only Gase had coached
Adam
him.
Gase.
Oh my. Yeah, it's an absolute travesty that Austin Hooper didn't go at all. Disrespected.
I mean, you were part of that reasoning.
No, if I had to take, I would have, but I went Zach Ertz earlier, so I would have taken him in this last round if I had held off on tight end.
Well, that bodes well to the point that we've all been making is that if you don't get one of those top guys early on, you may as well just wait. And Ertz is a top guy for you, so.
But maybe it was a mistake. I was just about to look at that. So I mean, who could I have had instead? I could have had. And again, though, I'm looking at who went after that, and it's like I don't like any of them.
I mean,
like my next pick, it would have been Ertz or Gallup, right? Basically, and I got Gallup the next round. I could have gone Akers or one of the no. That's what it would have been. It would have been one of the rookie running backs I could have taken there. So I'm thinking through, like, how this draft went, and I'm talking about how it is drafting from the middle. I definitely wanted to take that running back in the first round, like I said, because it doesn't box me in. I'm not boxed into a corner now where I have to take running back in the second round. But like I said, then again, you don't have to zig when everyone zags. No one was taking wide receivers, so I kept going with running backs too, just like everybody else, and then just kept that up. Go ahead and roast me, guys. Jonathan Taylor, what do you think, really? Third round.
I mean, I mean, obviously, I'm a Colts fan, and I hear all that coaches speak that you were talking about earlier. I love it. I mean, I absolutely love the pick there, and I mean, I would have taken Jonathan Taylor over Le'Veon if it weren't for, like I said, that thought in the back of my mind that Phillip Rivers still does not make this team better, and I think that with Marlon Mack being on his final year in Indianapolis, they're going to want to try to save the rookie, or depending on how they look for the playoffs, they might bring him on more towards the end of the season. I don't think that he's going to be 100% involved the entire season. That's the only reason I took Le'Veon. But once he does take the reins, if they need him, he's going to be a stud back, definitely worthy of a third round pick. Like, I don't think he does worse at all than his ADP, for sure.
No, I think in JT, what you've got is a guy after their bye week, which is week 7. I can see him 100% owning that backfield. Up until that point, as Justin mentioned, to start the season, I can see them leaning a lot more on Marlon Mack, and then slowly working in Taylor, and it just slowly seeing the roles reverse. And then after the bye week, it'll be 100% Taylor's job. I wouldn't have taken Jonathan Taylor over maybe a David Johnson, just because I don't want somebody on my team in the third round that I personally feel is going to start slow for me. But I don't hate the pick. Like, I think the second half of the season, and as your RB3, I think Jonathan Taylor will play a big, huge role for you the back half of the season.
I mean, I don't think there's anything really to roast about your team, though, Josh. The only thing would be like after, like, if Jonathan Taylor doesn't start off solid throughout the season, I'm not a big fan personally of Adrian Peterson. If you have to start him in a flex, maybe that's not too bad because he should get most of the workload. But I kind of feel like we see the same, I mean, obviously they're no Marlon Mack and Jonathan Taylor at this point, but with Gibson, I feel like he's eventually – I don't think it's a hard backfield to win with guys gone. So over time, and with Adrian's age, I could definitely see them going with Gibson more often. And then we've already talked about Damian Harris, and we don't know what you have there. So, I mean, you really only need Taylor to come on by the bye weeks, which are – actually the exact same as your other two running backs. John, all three of you starting running backs.
Yeah, I was noticing that a minute ago.
I said we found something to roast
with. Yeah. And
I managed to find the three running backs that are all week 7 bye.
Yeah, but hey, you take that one loss. Hopefully I'm playing you that week, and then everybody's happy.
I'm on bye week 7.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like doing that. I find myself doing that a lot with teams when I take a guy, especially a rookie early. I like to balance it off with like a veteran that I know is at least getting early season work. And then
yeah, that's fair.
And just hope I can blend them together into a whole starter.
Balance out.
Just going back to like just the idea, the concept of when you're in the middle here and I want to take the value, like I've said that before, but you still want to set yourself up. So just like I set myself up by taking a running back in the first, I set myself up to be able to take anything I wanted in the second round. But I still took a running back because it still set me up to, in the third round, be able to, again, have options. And like, I wouldn't have liked Jonathan Taylor as my second running back. This is the point I'm getting to, is like, I was able to take the Jonathan Taylor with the upside because I already had 2 other ones. And that can either go bad, in which case I might still be okay, but it might also win me the league. And if I didn't take Taylor and instead went safe with David Johnson, like you were saying, George, because maybe in the second round I took Chris Godwin, right? Then I'd be looking back at the second half of the season when Taylor's going off, and I'd be kicking myself because I'm like, I should have just taken that upside because that's what wins leagues. I shouldn't have gone safe. But when I did it this way, I have both.
Well, I mean, let's not downplay Chris Godwin. I mean, there's a lot of upside there.
Absolutely, absolutely. I just meant when it
No,
came
I
to
know what you meant. I know what you meant. No, and I agree. As your second running back, I had mentioned that earlier. I don't think I would have liked Taylor, but as your third, that's fine. I still like David Johnson over him just because I know David Johnson is going to have that workload. They traded a ton to get him, so I know coming right out the gate they're going to give him every opportunity under the sun to perform. So I'll take that opportunity and I'll take that volume. And I don't think it would be too much of a surprise if by the end of the season, like David Johnson and Jonathan Taylor finish real close to each other in the rankings. It'll just be, you had more boom games at the end of the year with Taylor, where David Johnson was more consistent week in, week out.
So here's something else to consider. Oh, go ahead. No, I was going to say, you go ahead, John.
Just say it. No, I'm going into something new. I'm going squirrel. Go.
Oh, well, I was going to say with Jonathan Taylor, there's one other thing to consider, and that is what the fantasy gods have in mind. So this is how this is going to play out, because I agree with everything you just said, Joshua, about Taylor being the number 3. After you say that, it totally makes sense. Like that's a great strategy now. Like now I'm all on board for your team because that totally makes sense. But I live in the Indianapolis area with a bunch of Colts fans in my league. So I guarantee you somebody's going to take him late in the first, early in the second. He's going to blow up. They're going to win the league and then make fun of me because I take this game so seriously and they whip me in the fantasy league. So that's how it's going to play out. That's a great pick in the third round.
No, it just oozes value.
Well, I was going to say, playing off what you said just then, George, about Taylor and Johnson maybe having similar season-long points, but Taylor's actually having those like winning you weeks towards and when it counts, right?
Yep.
I was reading something recently on Twitter. I'll try to have it here. I can give some credit, but basically talking about how Todd Gurley, which comes back to you picked Todd Gurley 12 last pick in the second round. And I like Todd Gurley. I have him ranked probably much higher than most people. But one of the things they were talking about in this thread was how Todd Gurley had only like a 4% win rate in best ball leagues last year. And usually the average is something like 8. So he was at 4.4, which, may be really surprising for a player who had like 250 touches, like 14 touchdowns. Like this was a pretty productive guy. Yeah, he wasn't the top 6 maybe some people had hoped he would still be, but he was like 14 running back 14 or 16 or something like that. He was still very good production, but he was just, there were no peaks. There were no big games. So obviously that's a lot more evident in a best ball setting where if he doesn't score big, then he may not even make it on the starting lineup, right? But in a setting like this where you have to actually start him, at least he's your running back too. But that is a point that I wonder how much we can carry that over to even our seasonal leagues where we have to set lineups, is just the idea of, yeah, this guy may only score me 5 points, but he might score 25. So which is really, is it worth it to go after that upside? I wonder if like I mentioned, we were looking at Hakuma Matata's team, and it is such a deep lineup. I kind of like going for that upside. So maybe I was wrong to pick. Maybe they were right to take Metcalf over Lockett after all.
In a best ball, I would say yes. In a season long where you have to be able to set the lineup and you have to hit Metcalf's boom games. In this particular league, yeah, you're probably going to end up starting him every week, so you probably will get his boom game or his 2 or 3 boom games throughout the year. But in a league that's more typical to where it's like 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, a tight end, a flex, like where you're not starting 3 flexes as well as 3 wide receivers, like you may not be starting DK Metcalf every week. And if there's potential where you have him on the bench on his boom weeks, where in best ball, it doesn't matter. You don't have to worry about setting up your starting lineup. So that I personally would have gone with Lockett over Metcalf in redraft. In a best ball, I think it's Metcalf over Lockett.
Yeah. I just wonder, especially like we talked about, 10. We got 10 players. Yeah, 10 players in our lineup here. I gave us 1 bench on this 11 rounder. With that many, I just really wonder if it isn't worth starting a bunch of these high upside guys, and 2 of them aren't going to do anything, but 2 of them are going to score more than enough points to cover those 2 that did nothing. So, yeah, it's just something I wonder about. And it's similar reasons why, like, in a regular PPR league, I'm probably leaning Alvin Kamara over even Zeke Elliott. I really like Zeke Elliott, but he had no big plays, no big runs last year. And that's a little bit of a warning sign. I don't know how much of that was just changes in the team and Zeke coming in, with no camp, that kind of thing. I don't know. That's something I'm going to watch this season for him. If I'm in a points per carry league or first down points, I'll be much more apt to take Zeke in a league like that. That's more consistent points just from those. But Alvin Kamara, he had the ankle injury, and so that sapped a lot of his burst. If he has that back, he's going to have those big plays. I'd rather have that.
Justin, well, I actually got.
Go ahead, Justin. Go ahead.
I was going to say I've got an example of something like that for you if you want to kind of answer a question for me anyway. In my league, again, I have the 4th pick. Who are your top 4 running backs if it's just strictly a standard league, non-PPR? No bonuses for rushing or anything. Does Derrick Henry creep up into that top 4 for you?
He does. He's already my 5th, I believe. I have him over Dalvin Cook. Like I said, I should take Dalvin Cook in this one, but as I said when I was on the clock, I was debating between the 2. And in a PPR, it's more justifiable to take Cook ahead of him. But in a non-PPR league, I'd probably still McCaffrey, still Barkley, because you're still getting, receiving yardage, even if you're not getting the reception. And then it'd be a tough choice probably between Zeke and Henry, right?
As the 4th?
As the 3rd.
So I would have it in a non-PPR, I would have it McCaffrey, Zeke, Saquon, Derrick Henry.
Okay.
Perfect. You guys are right in line with me, so that's great.
I was thinking McCaffrey, Barkley still, and then Zeke, Henry. But I was debating even Zeke or Henry.
With me being in the 4th, though, I can just take the one that's left. That's the beauty of being in that spot.
Yeah, no,
but that would be my top 4.
And taking what's left is great because you're happy with any of those 4, and then you get the earlier draft pick coming back the other way.
Yeah.
Yep. Bingo. Cool.
And in a standard, or I'm trying to get away from saying that, it's a bad habit. In a non-PPR league, as much as I don't like Josh Jacobs in PPR leagues, Jacobs jumps up to like running back 10 or 8 even in a non-PPR league for me. So I don't
same
know
with
if
Nick
that's
Chubb.
somebody that'll come back to you or not.
So in a non-PPR league, would you have Nick Chubb above Dalvin Cook? Because I think I would.
I don't think so. Not me. Not in my rankings. Just because. I mean, it's kind of like what you say with Alvin Kamara. He's still going to get those receiving yards, even if he doesn't get the receptions. Yep. I think just a lot of all-purpose yards there for Dalvin Cook to be had.
Touchdowns too.
Yeah, and then splitting with, I think Hunt. Even if Hunt just has the workload that he had at the end of the season last season, now it's going to be over the course of a full season. That's a lot to take away from Chubb. It just scares me, I guess.
I still like Chubb and still think he can have that upside. But I think I have him running back 10 in PPR, right behind Eckler and Clyde. So in a non-PPR, he would jump ahead of those two. He'd probably be right around the 6 or 7 area.
We somehow need to find a way to get Clyde Edwards-Helaire out of the top 12.
I am perfectly happy with him there. Not because I particularly want to take him there, although I do think he will return. Like I said, running back 9 is where I have him in PPR. But I also know that I'm never going to get him.
Yeah, same here.
Okay.
Same, exactly. I'll never get him. I'm okay with it. I just like for example, he was taken here at 1.5.
Yeah.
Like a lot has to go right for him to return that value. And I'm not willing to bet he returns the value of 1.5 this year.
He has to be Kareem Hunt.
Yeah.
And even in my projections,
I don't think he's Kareem Hunt.
In my projections, I gave him Kareem Hunt rookie receiving numbers, but only like 67% of his rushing work as Hunt as a rookie,
which is fair.
And when you take that away, because there's too many other backs who can do that, he's a smaller back. That's just not what he does. And you take that away. I mean, he can do it. He did it in college, but it's not what he's going to be as apt to do in the NFL against NFL athletes. And so you take some of that away, and that's enough to drop him down, like I said, to the 9th. That's still, I find, higher than a lot of people. A lot of people are resisting getting up in that 12 like you are. Well, Josh Jacobs, where are you guys with him? I don't know if my hate's gone too far. You can check me on this, but I mean, I have him like running back 15 or something like that, 16.
I think you're way too low on him. I think he should be right around 11 or 12.
I've been getting him a lot as my RB2 in that second round from that 4th spot. So I think a lot of people would probably agree with that. That's probably about where I have him too. I'd say probably maybe 12, 14.
Okay, so you do see him falling. He has to get that receiving work, which I bring up because he did just say something about he wanted to catch 60 balls, which, come on, not 60. But if he makes it into the 40s, okay, now we're talking. But he had 27 targets last year. I
forgot about
we all
that.
know that team needed targets.
Right. I've been doing non-PPR mocks, so that would play into it as well. So he probably is going a little higher than that mid-late second round.
Well, if he falls to you in the second round in a non-PPR, like I was just saying a minute ago, I like him in non-PPR because he's a great runner. And I had him projected for like 255 rush attempts or something like that. He's getting the work. It's just there's nothing on the receiving side. And if suddenly he starts doing it just out of nowhere, then I guess I'll be eating these words and I'll be watching a lot of teams winning with Josh Jacobs.
So how many targets does he need to get to make you feel comfortable to move him into like the top 12?
Well, into the 40s. I think I gave him like something in the 30s, 35, or
Which
something
I
like
think
that in my projections.
I think 40 targets is reasonable.
Sorry, receptions.
40 receptions, which is still, I think that's reasonable. In 2018, Leonard Fournette had 22 receptions. 2019, he jumped up to 76. Now, I'm not saying, he's going to jump up that high, but we've seen before running backs that typically aren't pass catching running backs all of a sudden become pass catching running backs.
Have we?
Yeah. I just gave you one.
Okay, but this is part of my problem with him is what led to Leonard Fournette suddenly getting all those targets.
They used him more in the passing game.
Why were they using him more in the passing game? Just because he got so much better? He didn't. He's terrible.
Maybe,
it wasn't good. It was because they needed someone to throw to. They got no one else. Like they had no one else. It was a roster. It was a depth issue. But we saw that already last year with the Raiders. But it didn't result in Jacobs getting used. Like everything was there, and everything was there in that situation that targets should have started going to the running back. Vacated targets, it's not a thing for me, but when, especially in a season, when targets get vacated, the majority of them historically go to running backs. That's the overflow. That's I got no one else to throw to. I guess we'll start throwing to the running back. So why didn't that happen? Everything was there for it to happen.
Can I blame Derek Carr being a very bad quarterback?
Well, how many targets?
Dump off king. He's the dump off king.
But
why couldn't he dump it off to Carson?
Well, what about DeAndre Washington though? How many targets did he eat up last season?
He looks great when he got playing time, including targets. Towards the end of the season,
so if he's not there,
games. No. My point is, he only came into play when Jacobs wasn't there at all, right? And so,
I got you. Okay.
In those
Washington
games,
had 41 targets last year.
What's that?
Washington had 41 targets last year.
Right. I would have to actually pull up the game log to see the particular games I'm talking about where he got the high snaps to see what his targets like were in those games. I'm pretty sure they're more like what we would want to see from a starter. And
so like you're what you're saying is you're thinking that he got those targets while he was in the game during the games that Jacobs wasn't playing a lot when he was injured or sick or whatever. That's when Washington was in the game and they were utilizing him in the passing game, not like they would utilize Jacobs. Right.
So there's a lot of, very one-to-one, good control situations here where we can see that, like, why wasn't he used? And we have Gruden saying how, we're going to get him involved. He should have been rookie of the year, rah, 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 whatever. I'm not.
So last year, Washington had 2 games with over 3 targets, or 3 receptions, rather. Excuse me. Other than that, every game he was 3 and under. So he wasn't.
I'm trying to figure out which exactly games those were. Is my point.
The game against the Broncos, he had 8 receptions, and the game against the Titans, he had 6 receptions.
So did Jacobs play those games?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out the weeks. Okay.
Week 17 and week 14.
Yeah. And 9 and 7 targets in those games. Those are his spikes in targets. those 2 games. So why isn't Jacobs getting 9 and 7 targets when he's the starter?
Can we go with he's a rookie? I feel like that's, a reasonable explanation. John Gruden's not big on allowing his rookies to to play that much. I mean, Jacobs played him a lot. Don't get me wrong. That's not what I meant to say.
He played a lot, and this was his thing. He was supposed to be able to be a receiver. He was supposed to be a good receiver from college. So this would be like Kareem Hunt coming into the Chiefs, getting moved up because Spencer Ware has an injury. 2017, they play the Patriots week 1. And instead of seeing this big game where the Chiefs throw the ball to him like crazy and they blow out the Patriots, they're just running Hunt over and over again on the ground, just running him and hardly give him any targets. Would that make you think Hunt was a good receiver?
Well, I don't think Hunt was a good receiver in college. Now that I'm looking, or not Hunt, I'm sorry, Jacobs, looking at his college stats. His 2018 season, he had 20 receptions. That was the most. And then the year before that, 2017, he had 14. And then the year before that, 2016, he had 14. So he only had 48 total career college receptions.
And I agree, but I'm just saying that was the kind of the perception coming in, that he was more of the receiver capable back over Damian Harris, right? The 2 guys there in Alabama.
Yeah, I think that was a false perception, though.
I agree, and so we can say that I'm wrong on that point, that was a receiving back coming in, but that just reinforces my idea that maybe he's not going to get receptions.
No, and I agree with you. I've changed my opinion here on the show, digging into the stats. Like, you've changed my mind on him. I think you actually have him ranked where he should be.
I'm just afraid he's Sony Michel West. I mean, minus the knees, or maybe plus the knees. But we thought Sony Michel was going to be that guy who would catch the ball and be involved in all phases, and they just didn't use him like that. And
Sony Michel is no James White, sir. He's no James White.
I don't know how much of that. No, but I saw in those games, they tried it. He just couldn't do it. It was him.
Yep.
Did we just witness a miniature little fake fight in the middle towards the end of our mock draft episode? That's kind of cool.
Did.
So this is a mock draft, and we're talking about Josh Jacobs.
It's a mock draft, and we're fighting over Josh Jacobs. What's going on here? This is absurd.
I will take any opportunity to fight about Josh Jacobs.
I've got tennis practice early tomorrow morning, so I gotta take the boy, because obviously, clearly, I don't play tennis. But thanks again for the invite, Joshua. Appreciate you, and you guys have a great night.
Thanks for jumping on. Make sure you check out that @Toilets to Titles on Twitter and the YouTube channel too. There's a mock draft on. They've been nice enough to have me on there too, so make sure to follow them. We'll wrap this up now, I guess. Yeah,
that's a good idea.
Mission accomplished. I changed George's mind, so I'll quit while I'm ahead.
This was a first. This was a first, Josh. We did a mock draft. We had a fake fight, and you changed my mind, all in this show. Congratulations.
I'm going to bed.
Go have the victory cigar. You've earned it, my friend.
I'm gonna have to get another drink. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us in the chat. I don't know. It's probably mostly people who are also in the draft. Although I did see J Mike sneaking in there. So thanks, guys, for hopping in and joining us. Hope you enjoyed. Keep an eye out. I do these articles where I talk about what I've been kind of coming back to every now and then about the drafting from the middle. So I do drafting from the corner. I mean, from the turn, drafting from the whiplash right next to the turn, and then the quarter post, which is kind of like a quarter of the way through. And then the middle I did tonight, which is the 6 and 7. So there's a 4-piece series I put out as an article. And I'll be this year, if I have a mock draft like this, I'll kind of link it in there so you can kind of reference that as an example. So probably didn't do a very good job of that tonight. But we had fun. Some good teams here. And keep an eye out. We'll probably try to do some more of these as we go. And check out my last podcast, Fusion Fantasy Football Podcast. Episode 95 came out yesterday. I kept referencing it tonight because I did keep on getting my, Keenan Allen, Lockett, Debo, all the guys I was talking about that were late round values according to my projections versus ADP. So be sure to check that out. Check out Break from the Grind podcast, but also they've got the charity leagues going. George, do you need to fill any more of those?
Yeah, actually I do. I've got a Chris Godwin charity league. If anybody's interested, it's a Chris Godwin mini helmet. It's $45 entry. 100% of your league entry fee goes to Toys for Tots. It doesn't go to any overhead for the charity or anything like that. And then I'm helping. I'm sorry?
Every cent, guys.
Yeah, every penny. And then I've also got a George Kittle league. I've got an autographed George Kittle football that is $75. Currently have 5 people in that league. That league is being ran by John L. Chapman from the 49ers Rush podcast. He's a 49ers homer. He filled up a Jerry Rice league for me, and he's working on trying to fill up a George Kittle league for me. So if anybody's interested in those, hit me up at BFTG Pod on Twitter, and I'll get you all the details.
Is that $75 for the $75 million contract he just had?
It might be. Actually, we had set the price before he signed the contract. So I want to think that the price that we set for that league influenced how much he needed to sign his contract for.
He should be thanking you guys.
He really should.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll have to reach out to him and tell him he owes me a thank you.
And I'm still trying to fill. I've got a couple more spots in the Fusion Flex League. If you like something different, trying to push Super Flex kind of to the next level here. We got rid of the required quarterback spot and gave you, instead of flexes, 4 super flexes. So you can literally draft any kind of team you want. You could go all quarterbacks for a few rounds, or you can do whatever you want, really. You can win however you want. That's what I'm trying to go for. So
how many spots you got left on that one, Josh?
About 4 or 5.
Okay.
I think we're up to at least 7 teams, I think, right now, and it's a 12-teamer. So yeah, it'd be 5. So hit me up.
I'll help you fill that one as well.
Thank you. And I'll be donating some kind of prize to that, at least a trophy. I'm trying to line something up for that. All right. Thanks for joining, guys. Have a good night. See you next time.